Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to another Devtoberfest session. We're in week 4, the final week of Devtoberfest. We're on day 2, Tuesday, Tooling Tuesday, and we've got a great session lined up for you. With me here is Wojciech and Sesh, and they're going to be talking about business rules and decisions, all sorts of amazing stuff. I'm super interested in this. I'm going to hand over to these two lovely people now. Before I go, though, I'm going to encourage everybody to ask questions in the chat. That's going to be monitored as well. Give us your questions, your opinions, and so on. We're going to take around about an hour. Just before we get to the top of the hour, we'll hopefully have time to answer any of the questions that remain outstanding. And I think with that, yeah, I'm going to hand over to Sesh and Wojciech. Thanks very much.
Thanks, DJ. Let me share my screen. So, hello everyone. A warm welcome from my side as well. So, I'm Seshadri. You can call me Sesh. I'm with SAP SE, and I'm a senior product manager with SAP Build. And I've been with SAP for 17 years now, and for majority of the time I was a technical product manager and now a senior product manager. And one of my responsibilities is also the entire business rules and capabilities at SAP. So that's under my responsibility. So I'm happy to be part of this session. Thanks to TJ for sharing this wonderful opportunity to talk to all of you and share insights on how decisions and business rules in SAP Build Process Automation can be used. So there was a lot of questions from customers and from community on the future of decisions or business rules at SAP because there were quite a lot of products. I want to show that. And I want to talk about what is possible now with SAP Build Process Automation. And I also have Wojciech here joining from Accenture. So who'll be sharing about a wonderful use case that they have built it for their client. So I'm so excited to see that showcase as well. So with that, let's go into this presentation. So before I start showing it on the screen, just bear with me for a couple of slides where I just want to give an overview of where or what we are going to talk about, especially for those who are hearing it for the first time. So for those of you who are not aware of the SAP Build Process Automation, so SAP Build as a whole that you see here is in SAP BTP on the cloud basically, and it is an SAP Build is the platform for application development and automation. Yeah, for SAP and non-SAP solutions. And within SAP Build, there are multiple services and capabilities. Like for application development and extensions, you have the SAP Build code targeting the professional developers, where you can write ABAP code. Recently, we launched ABAP Cloud in SAP Build code as well, and Java, JavaScript, Node.js, so on and so forth. And then you have the SAP Build apps, which is again to create applications, but in this case, in a low-code manner where you can drag and drop without writing any code, you can generate web application and mobile application. Then we have SAP Build Process Automation, that is about automating your processes. And that's what we are going to talk today. And finally, we have the SAP Build Work Zone to build business sites. Earlier, it was called as Launchpad or Portal as different names, but right now it is the SAP Build Work Zone. And like I said, so today's focus will be on SAP Build Process Automation. And SAP Build Process Automation also has tons of capabilities for process automation, because when you talk about process automation, it's not just a process, right? So of course we have the processes and workflows capabilities, but you need to also have some kind of a form capability so that it can be shown to the user for approvals. And to have that, we have the unified Launchpad and SAP Task Center. And we also go a level up, and we also have the task automation for repetitive manual tasks using RPA bots. And then we have the business rules and decisions as a capability. So all of these together with pre-built content in the Business Accelerator Hub, document understanding, and process visibility to give a end-to-end visibility of where your processes, KPIs, and all that. All of this is part of a single service called SAP Build Process Automation. And one of the capabilities is the business rules and decisions, which I want to talk about today. And also before I go, I just want to give a brief overview of where we come here, right? Right now in 2024, yes, I'm aware of it, but we started way back in early 2000, where we launched the BRF Plus in the ABAP, and then we launched the NetWeaver Business Rule Management in 2010 in the NetWeaver Java platform. And then when SAP ventured into the cloud platform, it was called as SAP Cloud Platform at that point in time, or HANA Cloud Platform, in fact. So we launched SAP Business Rule Service. And then we also had tons of other services in the domain of process automation in 2017. And then we merged them all together into one service called Workflow Management, which had the workflow capabilities on cloud, business rule capabilities. And then there was a separate product called Intelligent RPA as well. Now, all of that is combined into one single product called SAP Build Process Automation, which has got all kind of capabilities and services in BTP to automate your end-to-end process. Let it be workflows, let it be decisions, let it be tasks. So you have a single product for that. And this is what we are going to talk about, focusing on decisions. So let's go into the system now and let me show you how things are. So right now what you're looking at is the SAP Build lobby. So it's called as the lobby. This is a single place where you can create any kind of SAP Build artifacts, let it be from process automation or application. So by clicking on a create button, you can go ahead and create a process. So I can create a business process. I will just give it a name. I'm going to call it a Steptoberfest, and I create a new project. So the question comes is like, now, so far what I've done is I've created a process automation project, and I was asked to name a process, but now the use case could be, I only want to use decisions. Is that possible? Because by default, you get this pop-up as well to create a process. Of course, it is possible. You can use SAP Build Process Automation as a decision engine as well. So like I said, these are all capabilities. It all depends on your use case, how you want to use it. The product can do a lot of things, but if you want only decision capabilities, that is also possible. So you can go ahead and here I'm in an empty project. You can just go ahead and create a decision as an artifact. This is how you create a business rule or decision here. Here I'm going to call it as a determine approval for sales order. And I'll go ahead and create a decision that opens up an editor to create a decision. Similarly, I could have created other artifacts as well, like a process, etc. And one thing about SAP Build and SAP Build Process Automation in particular, that it is a low-code tooling, which means things are very easily explainable. In this case, if you see the decision itself, you get to see, okay, there is an input, there is a result, and there is a decision that is being executed. And right now there are no input parameters added, no decisions added. So it also gives a visual representation of it. And it is also verbose in the sense it uses natural languages to explain to the user so that you don't need to refer to the help documentation to create it. That's what the goal is for us. So in this case, I have three different tabs in a decision: input, output, rules, and variables. So today I'll be talking about only these two. It's more like an advanced concept. We cannot cover it in 1 hour. There are so many things that you can do. Let me go ahead and create a simple rule. In this case, I want to determine approval for a sales order. So I want to give some input parameter. So I can click on add input parameter, and there are different types, basic types that we support. Of course, you can also create a data type of sales order in the project, and you can use it as well. And for the demo today, I will keep it simple. Let's say I want to, based on, let's say, material, and let's say the net amount, I want to create or determine an approver. So I can, create something like this. And I can say sales order net amount. And this has to be a number, obviously. I would say, okay, based on these two, I want to create or determine an approver. So now my input parameters are set. Now I'll go ahead and create an output parameter. I'm going to call this as an approver for sales order. And this will also be of type string. So I have done this now. I could then go to the rules tab. This is where you add the different rules within it. A decision can have multiple rules, and one of the rule could be, let's say, in this case, I'm going to create determine an approver. And I will also copy this. And there is a hit policy. So depending on how you want your output to be, so the decision is executed from top to bottom. And whenever there is a first match found, then you want to exit, or you want to scan the entire decision, apply all the rules that you have defined there for the given input. So you can choose based on this. You can go to the next step and then choose what are the conditions that you need to determine an approver for. So we can say material and amount, and go to the next step and say, okay, what should be the output and the approver. And you get a summary of how your rule will be represented, and I can go ahead and create this. So once it is created, and this is a decision table, so which means I can maximize this. So this is how it is represented. I can click on this, and I can say if material is equal to, let's say, 1,000 and 10,001, and the amount is greater than 10,000, then let's say, and the approval for it. So I could go ahead and create it. So decision table is like an Excel, which means it is easier to edit, easier to understand. And at the same time, we also support export and import. So we can export this decision table into an Excel here. So let me just open that. So now I can go ahead and let's say, can also say if it's greater than 50,000, then I need, let's say, me and DJ also as two different approvers. And I can save this, and I can go ahead and import this Excel that I have just edited. So this way, so it's a two-way communication in the sense a developer could also do it, or you can also share this Excel to a business user. They can also maintain it, and then it can be imported. And now we are also working on a capability of exposing the decisions in a Fiori application. So you can directly give the access to a business user who can directly maintain that. So this is one thing that I want to talk about. And this is a one kind of a rule as well. Of course, there are other rules. When I try to add a rule, you can also add a text rule. So this is the other kind of rule that we support. So I already created a text rule. Let me just log in. So here again, I have some inputs. In this case, I have used a data type. So not a basic data type that I'm using, but a specific data type. In this case, it's like an order. And again, the output also have used something like a discount, right? And here I could have multiple rules as well. So this is also something that might be specific to the use case. In this case, I want to calculate the promotion rules, basically the overall promotion. It could be that there are some discount rules there, some gift voucher rules, some global promotion rules, and now we need to aggregate all of these into a single output to understand what is the overall discount now when all of these are applicable. So I could also create a decision table, but in this case, it is going to be a text rule. Let me just open a text rule to show how it looks like. So a text rule is a set of simple if, else if, or else statements. And here again, in this case, I can write any kind of a code, and I also get the suggestions that you see here. and I could keep adding this. And there are different kinds of functions available, and depending on the data type that you are working on, the list, the auto suggest list is automatically suggesting you what are the different things. In this case, let's say you want to, since it's a string, so there are different kinds of string related functions, math related functions, so on and so forth, right? So you can have different kinds of functions using which you can create such a complex rule. So in this case, I have said, okay, if it is between a specific period, right after the new year, then it's a seasonal discount. Else, if it is between August and September, it's 10%, so on and so forth. So I can have this, or I can also represent it in a decision table. It's up to you how you want it, whether the end users are comfortable using a table, an Excel-like rule maintenance, or they are comfortable with something like a programmatic representation of a rule. So going back to the Devtoberfest rule that we created. So now I have this rule created. I can go ahead and release this. So I can go ahead. Right, so now I can go into the version that was released. You can see the version 100 was released. You can also see the decision, but this time it will be in an editable mode. Sorry, not in an editable mode, in a read-only mode. So I can see that based on the amount and the material that is given, there is a certain thing. Now I can go ahead and deploy this in a public environment. Again, today I'm not going to cover about what an environment is. If you're interested to know more about it, there are help page that explains this. But in this case, I'm going to deploy it into, let's say, a public environment. So once this is deployed, now this rule can be executed via, let's say I can call it from another process within the same project or across a different project, or I can also use the REST APIs to call these decisions. So if I go to the api.sap.com, SAP Business Accelerator Hub, so this is where you get to see all the SAP Build Process Automation related APIs. And here, if I go to the API package SAP Build Process Automation under the REST API, you get to see the API for decisions along with the other capabilities that I showed earlier. And if I go into the decisions, you can see that there is one API that is available where you need to pass some information, but this is much more complex to identify what should be the input that needs to be passed. What is the rule service ID? What is the vocabulary? So on and so forth. To make that simple, what we have done is we have enabled something called as an API trigger. So again, I go to the environment. If you remember, I deployed in the public environment. So I go to the public environment, go to the triggers tab, and I can go ahead and add a new trigger. So what is this trigger? So trigger enables you to expose certain capabilities in process automation in general, and also decisions to outside process automation, SAP Build Process Automation, typically via API. So in this case, it is going to be an API-based trigger. So I will choose the Devtoberfest project that I created. So I go to the next step. And in this case, the only thing that is possible for a decision is an API-based trigger. So I go ahead and you see that it automatically determines that it's going to execute it. I give the name, execute decision, and I create it. And here you can see it gives what method to use, what is the URL to use, and what is the payload that is needed, so on and so forth. So I have gone and also set this up over here. So if you look at this, this is the URL that was needed, and it is a post method. And in the body, I can paste whatever I had copied. I can provide this as the one, and I can, let's say, give 200,000, and I can execute it. And you can see that now the result has come up. And of course, if I change this to 600,000 and execute it. I should, I don't know, let's say, okay. So, I mean, we need to check this, but you basically can trigger this via API by providing the input. It gets the appropriate result that you're looking for. So this is one way of executing it. And the other thing that I also want to cover, as I mentioned in this presentation, there are a history of different capabilities that we had with rules. And the NetWeaver BRM is under maintenance until 2027, after which there won't be a support. So the natural progression to that would be SAP Build Process Automation. And so is the case of the other BTP services, SAP Business Rule Service or SAP Workflow Management. You can already move into SAP Build Process Automation because these are deprecated services as well. So SAP Build Process Automation is the only available business rules capability or rules capability, apart from what you already have in the above platform as BRF Plus. So if you are in workflow management or in business rule, you would want to move to SAP Build Process Automation. So if that's the case, then I can also show you that we have enabled something pretty easy for you. Uh, So, so I'm in the SAP Workflow Management. Let me just refresh so that my session is not lost. Yeah, so I'm in the SAP Workflow Management, and this is how business rules was created there. You created data objects, rule service, rule set, rules, so on and so forth. This is much more simplified now in SAP Build Process Automation, but you want to continue to use what you have done. You do not want to use the new editor, the new capability, and you want to continue to use these. So we still support that. So you can download this entire project and save it in your file system. So I'll place it here in my file system, and you go into the SAP Build lobby. Under the monitoring section, we have enabled a tile to import your business rules. So there's a clear differentiate between a business rule that you can get from workflow management and business rule service, and a decision that you can natively create in an SAP Build Process Automation project. So you can go to the business rules, and this will enable an application which is very similar to what you have seen there. And the only difference is you cannot add a new project, but you can import project from your existing workflow management or business rules capability in BTP. So this way you can, once I import this, the project is imported. Now I get to see the exact same set of information that we saw over there, the data objects, rule service, rule sets, and rules. And you can go ahead and activate it and then deploy this, and you can continue to use it. But the life cycle is different from what we saw here in the SAP Build Process Automation. So that is one thing as a key takeaway that I want to give. You can already move your existing business rule project from workflow management or the business rule service that we had in BTP into SAP Build Process Automation with a simple import of it, and it will continue to work with a new set of APIs, of course. I mean, the signature is going to be the same, so which means you don't have to update a lot. Maybe just a destination. The host endpoint is something that you have to update. And of course, if you're using, let's say, OAuth client to authorize your REST API, these are the information that will obviously be different for workflow management and process automation. Otherwise, the migration is pretty simple, straightforward. And this is also documented in our help page, which I can share you in a short while. And last but not the least, before I hand it over to Wojciech, I want to also show you cool thing that we are also working on. So let me log into this. So I'm right now in our development tenant. So this capability is not yet released, but I want to give a sneak peek of the generative AI capabilities that we are introducing to create decision tables. So right now I'm in, let's say, the decision artifact, where I have an option to, use AI to generate truth. So here you can ask the AI to create a rule. So I've already prepared something so that we don't have to type a lot. I think this one. So here I've said, okay, I want to generate a decision table to add additional approvers based on amount. If the amount is more than, I can also add amount and material because I have two inputs. If the amount is greater than this, then that, okay. I can also say, and material is something like that. Then it is vice president, needs to be the approver. So I can send this as a query to the generative AI, the large language model that we have built in the product. And the AI will understand, okay, now you are in a specific decision that requires a material and amount as input. And it also understands the approver as the output, and it generates a decision table for you. And when I click on this, you can also see that it identified a gap automatically. And it also saying, okay, now it also proposing to fix this gap. So I can also go ahead and fix this gap. So then it will basically, what has happened is it has identified that now we have a row for more than, I think, 10 million. And now it is saying, okay, for less than 10 million and something which is not equal to 10,001, then these are the ones that is identified. I can go ahead and say it is going to be Sesh here, and maybe here it is going to be DJ, right? So I can provide something like this, save this decision, and activate it. So these are the capabilities that we are working on, and there are a lot more to come. So please look forward to that. And before I hand it over, so these are the set of information. I think DJ will be sharing this information in the YouTube video, if I'm not wrong. So all of this would be available there as well on how you can do all of what I've shown today. With that, I will hand it over to Wojciech to share the beautiful use case that Accenture has developed for their client. Over to you, Wojciech.
Okay, I will share my screen. Hello, everyone. My name is Wojciech Papuga, and I'm working at Accenture in Poland. And today, I will show how to use and create decisions in SAP Build Process Automation based on a business case. But before we dive into the main topic, I'd like to take a moment to introduce Accenture, the company I've had the pleasure to work for over 2 years as an SAP developer. At Accenture, we strongly believe that diversity is a key strength that brings versatility to our teams and drives continuous development for every team member. The focus on diversity helps us to foster innovation and stay ahead in today's ever-changing business environment. Accenture is a global company with more than 750,000 employees worldwide. We work in more than 40 industries. Our commitment to excellence and our efforts in creating an inclusive workspace have been recognized by various organizations. For example, in 2023, we were awarded the CODIE Award for Best Diversity and Inclusion Team. And we've been also listed in 7th place at Fortune's Best Companies to Work for this year. And also this year, we've earned recognition from Global 500 ranking 211th this year. And now let's take a quick look at the strong partnership between SAP and Accenture. First of all, Accenture and SAP have had a relationship that spans more than 30 years. Secondly, Accenture has built a large SAP practice with over 75 SAP practitioners working across the globe. And this gives us an incredible scale and depth of expertise, allowing us to support a wide variety of clients across industries. Moreover, we are closely collaborating with SAP to drive innovation, particularly in areas such as generative AI and cloud ERP transformation. And finally, Accenture was recognized as a leader in SAP implementation services in the Forrester Wave for report for Q2 2022. And now that I've covered some background on Accenture and SAP, I move into the business case. And this case will focus on a real-world example of a business process in material management and how leveraging decisions in SAP Build Process Automation can help address key challenges. So let's go to this business case example. And this slide shows a simplified diagram of the material management process. It highlights a few critical steps or a few key steps and two main problems that I encountered during its design. And I think that it will be the best to start from the beginning. So the beginning of the process is a request that the user creates to extend or create material. And this request is created using a UI5 application in BTP. Then this material request needs to go through different teams from different departments. Those teams fill the material data based on their knowledge. After all of these steps, after all of this filling the data, then the approver decides about this request. The approver decides whether to reject this material or to create it, and then the material is created in SAP S/4HANA system. But during this process, there are two key needs. And the first need is to determine an approver and the people who will fill the material data. And in our case, we needed to make this decision based on a material type, based on a plant that the material is going to be created in, and for some cases based on the sales organizations. And the same for the second needs, a need to determine additional storage locations for material to extend, because client wanted to extend the material to additional storage locations during its material creation or during its material extension based on the main storage location that the user selected. And of course, two of these needs could be hard-coded into UI5 applications or into a process or into a workflow. Of course, it is possible, but in this case, both of these decisions are a subject of frequent changes. So it is not the best idea to hard code conditions in a code, because business users might want to change it even a few times in a month. So this is a place where decisions comes in, because using decisions mechanism, I could externalize those logic to determine approver, determine users who will fill the data, and determine additional storage locations. And I could I could make them in a separate place, not in a workflow or not in a process or not in a SAP UI5 applications. And this way, business users could easily change those data when they need to do so. So it is a great way because they can export decisions to Excel. They can send them by mail to some different teams to check if everything is okay, and then import it back again to SAP Build Process Automation. And now I will demonstrate how to create such decisions in SAP Build Process Automation, and then how to integrate this decision into a process. And for this, I need to quickly share a screen. Okay, so now we are in SAP Build Lobby. And from here, as Sesh presented before, I will create a new project, clicking here, an automated process, a business process, and I will name it the Oktoberfest demo. And now I will do almost the same as the Sesh before. So I will cancel the process creation. Of course, when the project will load. Okay, so we do not need any process right now. We only want to create a decision. So I will name my decision, for example, storage location decision. And for this storage location decision, I will need 3 input parameters. The first input parameters will be material type. It will be a basic type string. Then the second would be a plant, also a string. And the third one will be storage location, main storage location to be precise. So maybe I will add this in a description. And for the output parameter, I will need only one additional storage locations. And actually, there are 2 ways to do it. One way is to create a custom data type with one field, a storage location field, and then make it a list. And then I would create a decision table with all match policy and create one rule for one storage location. But my way was quite different, and I decided to create only a one output parameter of type string. And then in this one string, I decided to add storage locations and separate them using comma and space. And then in my process or in my workflow, I just parsed them into a list or into an array. And this way, rules were a lot simpler and a lot more understandable for business users. So now that we have input and output parameters, I go to rules, I add rule, and here we have 2 rule types. As Sesh described before, I choose a decision table. I name it storage location table, for example. Same for description, because it is required. And then there is a hit policy, and I keep it as first match. And as I told before, and as Sesh told before, the first match policy stops processing rules when it finds any match, and all match policy processes full decision table and returns every matching row. But for my way, I only need a first match policy. And then I keep rule category as default one because I do not need any reusable rule. It is only an orchestrated rule. It's only a simple decision table. Now configure conditions. So I only choose those input parameters. And here I can also define an operator. And there are a lot of operators, but I will only choose the simpler one. So is equal. As you can see, there are a lot of others. For example, exists in, or contains, or starts with, or ends with. But for this example, is equal is perfectly fine. Now I choose result attributes, and this is our output parameter only. Here I can also edit the label, but it's not necessary. And this is a review step, so we can see how our table will look like. I click create. And as Sesh told you before, you can export this decision table to Excel for business users, for example, to fill it and then import it, or you can just edit this from Build Editor. I will just make, for example, 3 rows and quickly fill them with some data, for example, third finished goods. And here, for example, help. Let's fill some plant data. And one more. Let's make it PL10. And for storage locations, I will make everywhere the same storage location. Okay, and as for additional storage locations, I will copy them. Okay, so as I told before, I will just put them into a string and separate them by comma and a space. And this way they could be easily separated in a scripted JavaScript. Okay, so for the first one, I will go with this one. And for help, maybe I will change it to RM01 and here FG01. And now we have a decision table. We save it. We release it. Okay, and now I will deploy this to public environment since this is a trial sub-account. And now we could test this decision in api.sap.com. So I will look for the decision API the same way Sesh did. And here we can go to API reference and try this out here if we are logged in. Okay, I need to refresh the session. And I have already prepared an environment from my trial account. And now I need to fill the body of the request. So the body consists of rule service ID and this rule service ID. And for this rule service ID, we need to go to the deployed or released decision. Click in this decision. And click here on these three dots, view details, and there is an ID. So we can paste it here. And for vocabulary, we have three input parameters. So I will just delete those two objects. And instead, I will just type in my parameters. So material type, the first one, and for example, third. The second one would be plant. And the third one, the third one would be storage location. For example, FG01. And now that we have a body prepared, we can click run. And as you can see, the call is successful and it resulted in one output parameter. And in this case, it is RM01. And if we change this body to some other rule, for example, third PL20 FGO1, we would receive a different rule. Okay, so this is the first way to try decision, and the second way is to use this decision in a process in Build Process Automation. So of course, I could go to my project, newly created project, and go to the editable version, and I could create a process and use this decision here. But what is also important is that in SAP Build Process Automation, almost everything can be reused in different projects. So that means that I can create some decision in a project and then use it in a lot more other projects. And if you want to do this, you need to go to a lobby. I will refresh this page. And now I will click on my project. I will go to the versions tab and I need a released or deployed version. Then I click on this released or deployed version here and I click publish to library. And this way, this project is added to library and it is ready to use by a different project. And for the purpose of this session, I already created a very simple project based on our business case. And here I have a process where I would like to add this decision. So first, I need to go to a dependencies tab. I need to select this cogwheel. Then I need to click other. Then add a business process project dependency and look for my project. And this is Devtoberfest demo. I click add. And as you can see, the dependency is added. If we expand this, we can see what artifacts exactly are added. And now I can go to this material process, extend material process. And I can click somewhere, for example, at the beginning to add a new step. And I click decision. And then I select our newly created decision, it's storage location decision. And as you can see, it is highlighted that it comes from another project because those two were already in this material management, and this one is from Devtoberfest demo. I select it, and now I need to assign input. So I choose values from trigger form, material type, plant, storage location, and then I can also assign the output to some variable, but this is not necessary. I can use it anyway. And for example, I go to my approval form, and I have, and in this place, I have already prepared a text field with additional storage locations. And here I can assign results of my decision here, and it will display those additional storage location as a string. So for this part, this process part, this is everything. I will now show how it exactly works in application based on this business case that I prepared. This is a UI5 application, and this application though does almost the same as this workflow, and application does almost the same as this material management process. So I will go to SAP Build Work Zone to site, and here I have already prepared extend material application. This is a simplified version of this application that I created. Here I select extend storage locations. I select material of type finished good. Here I select plant, and for example, PL10. I hope that this is covered in decision. FGO1 storage location, and I click submit. And now the workflow has started. In the background, there are some tasks performed. For example, 2 decisions calls, one for determining who will be an approver, and in this case, it will be me, and the other to determine the additional storage locations. Now I go into my inbox application, where, as you can see, I already received this task to approve. And if I scroll down, there is an additional storage location listed here. So this is an example of how to use decisions. Of course, if I now click approve, this material will be replicated to SAP S/4HANA, but since this is only a trial environment, I have no connection here available, so it only shows what would happen next. So I think that this is everything from my side. Thank you. Now I think that Sesh will conclude this session, maybe summarize it a bit.
Yes, thank you, Wojciech. Thanks for that wonderful demo to give an insight of how we have solved it for one of our clients in the material management domain. So it was quite interesting to see how the rule was used together with the process. So I also saw a few comments in the YouTube also, and one of the comments was reusing decisions. So to answer that question also, so what Wojciech showed is something which is already possible. So you can reuse decisions from, let's say, a process that is built in a different project altogether by publishing the decision project or the project in which a decision was as a library, like Wojciech showed. So what is possible? You can consume decisions from any other project, usually from a process. Yeah. So can you consume a decision from another decision? That is not possible. Irrespective of in the same project or different project, you cannot consume a decision from another decision. But what can be done is something called as a reusable rule. Let me quickly share my screen and show that. So what we have is when you're creating a rule, and you're trying to add a rule, irrespective of whether it's a decision table or a text rule, you have something called as a rule category, which is orchestrated rule by default, but you can also mark this as reusable rule. What this means is this rule cannot be executed or is not automatically executed when you execute a decision, but rather it can be only used from another rule within the same decision. So all rules that are marked as reusable will be created under a separate section in the decision, and then you have the orchestrated rule. I'll tell you how the reusable rule is used. But when you execute such a decision that has got orchestrated rule and a reusable rule, the execution order is available only for the orchestrated rule. So when you execute this decision, it will start from the orchestrated rule with the lowest execution order, which is number 1. So it starts from the first one, in this case, additional discount rules, then goes to the second rule, then go to the third rule, and then whatever is the output of the third rule is given as an output of this entire decision. That is what an orchestrated rule is. So that is what we are doing here. But what exactly is the purpose of a reuse rule? When you create a rule which is marked as a reusable rule, then these rules can be consumed from any other rule in the same decision. So if I create something called as a reuse rules, go into, let's say, one of these text rules, and I can also say, and if you see here, now you see the reuse rule available as one of the artifacts. And the reuse rule provides 3 outputs. So which means I can say if discount or a seasonal discount is equal to true. Yeah. So what I have defined here is I have used a rule as a vocabulary or as a data object, wherein I can define conditions. And when such a condition is defined, to evaluate this, first it will call the reusable rule. It will identify what is the seasonal discount. This is one of the outputs of the rule, and then use that to evaluate the conditions. So this is something that can be done, but you cannot use a decision in another decision within the same project or across project. I think that was one question that was interesting. Hope that was answered. And while answering this, I also touched upon something called as an orchestrated rule. So there was also a question on the hit policy, if there are something more to it, like a sum or something different than the first match and the last match. So first and foremost, the hit policy is only applicable for decision tables to tell whether the rule executions should stop at the first hit, or it should continue the entire or continue scanning the entire decision table until the very end and aggregate all the results and then give it back to you. Right. So this is what is there. But these kind of special hit policies, well, like mentioned in the question, like sum, can be achieved on top of that. For example, you could have a decision table which can give you a list of matching records. Here, sum, one of the question was sum. So if I'm looking at just the sum, which means the output was a number. So you have now 4 records with 4 different numbers, and you could create a text rule which is executed right after that in an orchestrated rule fashion. In the text rule, you can loop through this array that you have got, and you can add them or subtract them or find the maximum, minimum. So there are functions that are available. You can use that and you can get the output of the overall decision. So this is something that you can do, but a hit policy is only for decision table to tell when to stop execution of the rule. Okay, yeah, these are the 2 questions that I saw. Yeah, one more was the Fiori application.
Yeah,
Let me
exactly. That was from Enrique. Yeah, so that'd be great if we could answer that, because we've only got 1 minute left.
So exactly. So the Fiori application. So we are actually planning to have a pre-delivered application. All you have to do is configure a Fiori tile, tell which project it is, and what kind of artifact you want to load it. In this case, it is a decision. And once you configure that, then that is all is needed. You don't have to build your own application using the APIs, unlike how we had it earlier in workflow management or business rules, where you had to build your own application using the UI5 control that we have delivered. But in this case, we are providing a Fiori application itself that points to all decisions in a specific project. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah, then that's all I have from my side. If there are no questions, over to you, DJ.
No, thank you very much. So, Wojciech, do you want to come back on video again? And do you want to stop screen sharing, Sesh, so we can just say goodbye and everything? That'd be fantastic. I know there's more questions. It was some great questions in the chat. Perhaps those questions that are still outstanding, you could maybe re-ask in the comments to the community session page that I've linked to already in the chat, where Sesh has already shared the links from his slide. And then Wojciech and Sesh can maybe answer there as well. It just remains for me to thank everybody for watching and commenting and asking questions. That's great. And of course, most of all to Wojciech and Sesh. So thanks so much for this DevToberfest session.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.
You're welcome. Goodbye from me.
you.
All right. Bye.
Bye.